Hi, this is Matt Houghton for Sound on Sound with another Reaper workshop. In this one, I just want to take you through a quick technique for vocal alignment, by which I mean aligning multiple vocal parts with one master vocal part rather than aligning it to the grid. It's the sort of thing you might do when you've got stack backing vocals, or if you want to do ADR, that kind of thing. It turns out that Reaper's inbuilt tools allow you to do this in a kind of a faster way than traditional editing. Not maybe as fast as SynchroArt's Revoice Pro or Vocaline or so on, but it's a lot cheaper than that. So let me take you through it. I'll start by looking at the preferences that I've got set up here, because they make the workflow a lot faster and smoother. So let's open the preferences pane. If I go down to I'm in the mouse modifiers, I hasten to add. If we go down to the media item, you can see that I've duplicated this add stretch marker command onto option and control. And the reason for that is that I wanted to be able to hover my fingers over the same keys for different commands. So if I go to media item stretch marker, you can see I've got control here to, this is a long one, move stretch marker preserving left hand rate ignoring snap. And that's just a glorified way of saying I can move the stretch marker without stretching the audio. There's one other shortcut I've got set up. If I go onto the arrange page here, arrange view, you can see that I've got a default action for right drag, which is marquee select items and time, and that's a really quick way of working. So you can see here I can just right click and drag, and I've selected all those items, and I've created a time selection here. It's something I've got separate from the playback range, which is not the defaults, but it's a really useful thing to do. Okay, so let's have a look. I can go Control Option Click. I can create my stretch markers as I need to. If I go Control, and I can move the stretch marker to another point. Control Option Click will both create and delete the stretch markers. So that's the basics. I've got a way of kind of automating this, but I'll just show you manually because it kind of explains the process. I'll do it very quickly here. So you can see we've got vocal parts on each track here. These two tracks in the second and third, the two vocal parts in the second and third tracks, you'll see starts one word later than on the first and fourth track. Okay, so that's a very quick and dirty approach there, but it gives you the general idea. Now, as with any DAW, you can grab and move and stretch the audio in Reaper, and you can hopefully see there that the triangles are changing colour. So the default is grey when there's no stretching or compression being applied, and as you stretch the audio, you can see that a compressed piece has got a blue triangle either side, and a stretched piece has a red triangle either side. And you get them back to the middle, which is a bit tricky when I'm on that magnification, but you can hopefully see it's going grey there. Okay, that's so far so conventional. Now, the good thing in Reaper is if you select multiple tracks, there's this facility whereby you can kind of catch the markers on another track and drag them all together. So you can see here it's picked up the ones on the tracks above, and now they're all moving in concert. So that's a really handy technique, but we want a little bit less work and a bit more flow. So how can Reaper help us? Well, the first thing to say is that if you want to work manually, you can select all of the tracks at once, and your Create Markers tool will apply to all the tracks at once. So you just run through each word on your master reference track at the top. Here we go. You would zoom in a little bit more than this, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just identifying the different phrases and the different points at which the vocal sound transitions. And you create the markers on all tracks concurrently, then you deselect, you use your control key, and you can place the markers that a little bit more precisely on the other tracks. You select them all again, or the ones other than your reference track, and you can line things up pretty much perfectly by eye. It's perfectly possible to work through a short section like this, and you can get through, well, the kind of piece here You'd get through that in about a minute and a half, something like that, and you get decent results. It's saving us a little bit of time when we've got 3 vocal parts and the main vocal here. But you can imagine if you'd got, say, 12 stacked backing vocals and double tracks and so on, you start to be saving a little bit more time working that way. I thought it would be nice if we could take it just one step further and try and automate the process a little more. And there is a way you can kind of try and do this. Your degree of success is going to be affected by the nature of the audio that you're working with. So something really rhythmic like a rap vocal will generally be easier to work with than something with sustained vowels and so on. But it's worth a try. So what I'm going to do is select all of the items. Select all of the items, and I'll hit D. That brings up the dynamic split dialog box, and I've got it picking up transients and when the gate closes. So the transients are the onsets of words, and when the gate closes is picking up the end of words, so I can write a marker at both points. You're going to want to play with the transient sensitivity. I find it's better to set it so that you've got more markers you need than fewer. Because it's really easy to set things up so you can just lasso those and delete the markers, and you're still left with the beginning and the end. It's just a little bit quicker than doing it all manually. The other one you're going to want to look at is the gate threshold, and one thing to note here is that if you bring the gate threshold down too low, you'll find that some of these markers at the end of words will just disappear. So you've just got to play with that and finesse it until you get the sort of best balance of markers that you need. When you've got those, you write stretch markers to selected items, like so, and they all magically appear. As I say, you're going to want to set up a shortcut so you can lasso, say, a time selection like that, and I think I set it up for Control, Alt and Backspace, and that just removes all of those spurious markers. So if you can see a word there, you can quite quickly go in and delete all of the markers that you don't need, and you're left with the beginning and the end markers in the word. And then it's literally just as it was before. You just have to tidy a few things up where there are missing markers. So I'm going to need one in here, for example. And then again, you go through manually, just try to pick up all the markers and align it so that your reference track at the top has got a grey triangle and the others are stretched to fit. So I've shown you how to set things up, but I've not actually played you any audio yet. So let's have a look at, or a listen rather, at what kind of results you can expect. I've got a track here which is it's the same one I use for the Revoice Pro demonstrations. It's Christina Vane's So Easy, so thanks again to Christina for letting us use this. This isn't a mix, it's just 4 vocal parts, an extract of 4 vocal parts taken from the track, and they're untreated. You can see there's some effects on there, but that's just a high pass filter. On the left here, I've got the original part, and here's one I made earlier on the right. I've added the stretch markers and aligned it in using just the techniques I've demonstrated already. It took me about a minute to do this section, so it's not as quick as Revoice Pro by any means, but you can imagine if you've got lots and lots of stacked tracks and a 3.5 minute pop song or something like that, then it will save you an awful lot of time. So all that remains for me to do is to play you the before and after. So here goes. This is before.
And all this time wasted on you, I'll start anew.
Now, hopefully you can hear that's not actually too badly performed at all, but there are areas where there's a couple of words where it just starts not quite bang on, and in particular there's one long phrase here on this second track compared with the others. Let me just play that one more time and then I'll play you the after.
And all this time wasted on you, I'll start anew.
So that was before, and here's after.
And all this time wasted on you, I'll start anew.
So I don't think the results are bad. I could have spent a little bit longer just going in and finessing where the markers are, just making sure it's absolutely bang on. To do that, you need to zoom in and out a little bit. So I would say that section, to do it properly, would take you maybe 1.5, 2 minutes. Scale that up to a full pop song, and I think it's worth doing. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful.